I want to tell you about a patient of mine. Her name is Dorothy. Dorothy is 71 years old, retired school librarian, meticulous, careful, the kind of person who reads every label, follows every instruction, and takes her health seriously. Dorothy was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes 4 years ago, and from that day forward, she did everything her doctor told her. She cut out sugar. She stopped drinking soda. She gave up cake and cookies. She switched to whole grain bread. She took her medication every morning, and she ate vegetables, lots of vegetables, every single day. Because that is what you are supposed to do. Vegetables are healthy. Vegetables are safe. Vegetables do not raise your blood sugar. Or so she thought. Dorothy came to see me frustrated. Her blood sugar readings at home were inconsistent. Some mornings they were good. Other mornings they were higher than she expected, and she could not figure out why. She was not cheating on her diet. She was not eating anything she was not supposed to. She was doing everything right, and yet the numbers kept surprising her. I asked Dorothy to walk me through a typical day of eating, and as she talked, I started to see the pattern, not in what she was eating, but in which vegetables she was choosing and how she was preparing them. My name is Dr. Daniel Chen. I'm a physician in internal medicine. And today I want to explain what Dorothy and I discovered together, because I suspect there are a lot of people watching this who are doing exactly what Dorothy was doing and getting the same confusing results. Not all vegetables are equal for blood sugar, and understanding why changed how Dorothy managed her diabetes. Let us begin. Now, first I want to explain a concept that is central to everything in this video. It is called the glycemic index. The glycemic index, or GI, is a scale from 0 to 100. That measures how quickly a specific food raises blood glucose. After you eat it, pure glucose, the reference point, scores 100. Foods that digest quickly and send glucose into the bloodstream rapidly score high on the scale. Foods that digest slowly and release glucose gradually score low. Now, the scale is generally divided into 3 categories. Low glycemic, which is a score of 55 or below. Medium glycemic, which is 56 to 69. And high glycemic, which is 70 and above. For someone managing diabetes or prediabetes, the glycemic index is easy to use. Choose foods in the low GI category instead of those in the high GI category, and go easy on those in between. Now, here's what Dorothy did not know, and what surprises almost every patient when I explain it. Vegetables are not a single category on the glycemic index. They span the entire scale, from essentially 0 to some of the highest glycemic foods in existence. And understanding where specific vegetables fall is genuinely useful information for anyone managing their blood sugar after 65. Let me walk you through the categories, starting with the best news. The vast majority of vegetables are extremely low on the glycemic index. We are talking about scores between 5 and 20. These are the non-starchy vegetables, and they include kale, score approximately 5. Brussels sprouts, score approximately 6. Spinach, score approximately 6. Broccoli, score approximately 10. Cabbage, score approximately 10. Cauliflower, score approximately 12. Tomatoes, score approximately 15. Lettuce, cucumbers, zucchini, bell peppers, green beans, asparagus, celery, mushrooms, all of these score so low that they produce essentially no meaningful blood sugar impact for most people, even those with diabetes. Non-starchy vegetables contain so little carbohydrate, typically 2 to 5 grams per serving, that their glycemic impact is essentially 0, regardless of GI score. They should not be a source of concern. These are the vegetables you can eat freely and generously without worrying about blood sugar impact. They provide vitamins, minerals, fiber, and antioxidants with minimal glucose effect. This is the good news. Now, here's where it gets more nuanced and more relevant to Dorothy's situation. There is a second category of vegetables called starchy vegetables. These vegetables contain significantly more carbohydrate per serving than their non-starchy counterparts, and their glycemic index scores are meaningfully higher. The most important one to understand is white potatoes. White potatoes in most preparations, boiled, baked, mashed, fried, are the only common vegetables with truly high glycemic impact. Their GI ranges from 78 for boiled potatoes to 87 for instant mashed potatoes. A baked russet potato scores higher on the glycemic index than white bread. Let me say that again. A plain baked potato, which feels like a healthy choice, raises blood sugar faster than white bread for many people with diabetes. Now, I want to be honest about the nuance here because context matters. How you eat a potato changes its impact. While some potato varieties have a high glycemic index, other factors can balance this out. Consuming high GI foods alongside proteins, fats, and vegetables changes the effect on blood sugar. Combining a high GI food with low GI food can help balance a meal and lower its overall glycemic impact. The American Diabetes Association states that portion size is key to enjoying starchy foods as part of a healthy meal plan. So a potato eaten alone or mashed with butter and milk has a very different blood sugar impact from a smaller portion of boiled potato eaten alongside chicken, vegetables, and a salad with olive oil dressing. Context matters. Portion matters. Preparation matters. But the underlying reality is that white potatoes, in the amounts that many seniors eat them several times a week as a primary part of a meal, can be a significant source of blood sugar elevation that many people with diabetes are not accounting for because potatoes feel like a vegetable, not like bread or sugar. Now, let me tell you about the other starchy vegetables that fall in the moderate range and that deserve awareness without causing panic, because these are healthy foods that can be part of a diabetes-friendly diet with appropriate awareness and portions. Sweet corn has a glycemic index of approximately 54, which puts it at the upper end of the low range. Sweet potatoes have a glycemic index of approximately 70, which is in the high range, though they have more fiber and nutrients than white potatoes. And their glycemic load, the actual amount of glucose delivered in a typical serving, is more manageable than white potato. Parsnips have a glycemic index of approximately 52. Green peas have a glycemic index of approximately 54. Carrots have a glycemic index of approximately 39 when raw, but higher when cooked, because cooking breaks down the cell structure and makes the sugars more rapidly available. Beets have a glycemic index of approximately 61 when cooked, moderate range. Pumpkin and winter squash range from moderate to medium high depending on preparation. Now, I want to address something important because this is where a lot of confusion comes from. The glycemic index on its own is not the complete picture. There is a second concept called the glycemic load, and it is actually more practically useful for making food decisions. The glycemic load combines the glycemic index of a food with the amount of carbohydrate in a typical serving. Let me give you an example. Watermelon has a glycemic index of approximately 72, which sounds alarming, high glycemic. But a typical serving of watermelon contains very little carbohydrate because watermelon is mostly water, so its glycemic load is only about 4, which is very low. In practice, a serving of watermelon has minimal blood sugar impact, despite its high glycemic index. The same logic applies to some vegetables. Pumpkin has a glycemic index of 64, but a typical serving has very few grams of carbohydrate, so its glycemic load is actually very low. And the real-world blood sugar impact is modest. This is why reading about glycemic index alone, without considering serving size and glycemic load, can lead to unnecessary restriction of foods that are actually fine in typical portions. The Harvard Health Guide to Glycemic Index, which I reference regularly, summarizes it this way. Most fruits and vegetables, beans, minimally processed grains, pasta, low-fat dairy foods, and nuts are in the low glycemic index category. White and sweet potatoes, corn, white rice, couscous, and some breakfast cereals fall in the moderate glycemic index category. Now, let me tell you what was happening with Dorothy. When I asked her what vegetables she was eating every day, she told me potatoes, almost every dinner. She loved them. They felt wholesome. She grew up eating them, and they felt safe, not like sugar, not like bread, like vegetables. She also ate corn frequently and carrots, and sometimes parsnips in her soup. She was not doing anything wrong. She was choosing foods she had eaten her whole life that felt healthy. But for someone with type 2 diabetes, eating a serving of boiled potato with dinner several nights a week was contributing to blood sugar elevations that she could not explain. Because nobody had told her that potatoes affect blood sugar the way they do. I want to be very clear about something. I did not tell Dorothy to never eat potatoes again. That is not the right message. The right message is this: be aware, make small adjustments, and use what you know to make smarter choices more often. Here's what I specifically told Dorothy. The first thing, think about portion size with starchy vegetables. A smaller portion of boiled potato, about the size of your fist, eaten alongside protein and non-starchy vegetables, has a much more manageable blood sugar impact than a large serving of mashed potato as the main component of a meal. The second thing, preparation method matters significantly. For potatoes specifically, boiled and then cooled potatoes, such as potato salad made with vinegar, have a lower glycemic index than freshly boiled hot potatoes, because cooling increases what is called resistant starch, which digests more slowly. Baked or roasted potatoes have a higher glycemic index than boiled, and instant mashed potato has the highest glycemic index of all potato preparations, at approximately 87. This is genuinely useful to know. The third thing, think about substitutions, not eliminations. Sweet potatoes, while still in the moderate to high GI range, have more fiber, more nutrients, and a different starch composition that many people with diabetes find easier to manage, particularly when eaten in moderate portions. Yams, which are often confused with sweet potatoes, have a lower glycemic index of approximately 37 and are a better choice for blood sugar management. Legumes, lentils, chickpeas, black beans, white beans have glycemic index scores between 20 and 40, and they provide protein and fiber alongside their carbohydrate, which further slows blood sugar impact. These can partially replace potato as a side dish with significant blood sugar benefits. The fourth thing, always pair starchy vegetables with protein and fat. This is the most practical piece of advice for real daily eating. A potato eaten alone spikes blood sugar quickly. The same potato eaten alongside a piece of fish, a serving of beans, or dressed with olive oil and eaten with a green salad spikes blood sugar much more slowly, because the protein and fat slow gastric emptying, the speed at which food leaves the stomach, and therefore the speed at which glucose enters the blood. You do not have to give up potatoes. You have to give up potatoes alone, or potatoes as the dominant food in a meal. The fifth thing, fill half your plate with non-starchy vegetables first. This is the foundation of what the American Diabetes Association calls the diabetes plate method. Half the plate, non-starchy vegetables, leafy greens, broccoli, cauliflower, peppers, tomatoes, green beans, zucchini. These fill the plate. Add fiber and leave less room for the starchy components that have the higher blood sugar impact. 1/4 of the plate is lean protein, chicken, fish, eggs, legumes, and 1/4 low glycemic carbohydrate, brown rice, whole grain bread, or a smaller portion of the starchy vegetable. This framework, without calorie counting, without complicated tracking, automatically produces a lower glycemic meal every single time. The sixth thing, walk after eating. I know I say this in many videos, but I say it because the research is consistent. A short walk after a meal, even 10 minutes, activates the muscles, which absorb glucose from the bloodstream directly without needing insulin, and reduces the peak blood sugar spike from that meal by a meaningful amount. This is particularly useful when you have eaten something starchy. A short walk afterward does not erase the spike entirely, but it reduces it consistently. Now, I want to address the question that Dorothy asked me, which I suspect you are thinking about too. She said, "Dr. Chen, should I just stop eating potatoes entirely?" I told her no, and I want to explain why, because I think this is an important principle for eating with diabetes in general. The goal is not to eliminate foods you love. The goal is to understand them and to make thoughtful adjustments that add up over time. A diet you can sustain is infinitely more valuable than a perfect diet you abandon after 3 weeks. Dorothy still eats potatoes. She eats a smaller portion. She usually boils them rather than baking them. Sometimes she lets them cool before eating for a potato salad. She always eats them alongside protein and vegetables, and occasionally she swaps them for sweet potato or lentils. 3 months after our conversation, her blood sugar readings were more consistent. The mysterious, unexplained elevations had become less frequent. Not gone, but less frequent. And Dorothy understood why, which mattered to her almost as much as the numbers. She told me, "I thought I understood what I was supposed to eat, and then I realized that vegetables were not all the same, and that nobody had ever explained that to me. Not once in 4 years of managing diabetes. That is why I am telling you today. Now, let me give you the questions to ask your doctor or your diabetes care team at your next appointment. Ask them, should I be thinking about the glycemic index or glycemic load of what I eat? And does it make sense for my specific situation? Ask them, can we review which starchy vegetables I eat most frequently, and whether my portions and preparation methods are appropriate for my blood sugar management? Ask them, would a referral to a registered dietitian be helpful, so I can get a personalized eating plan that accounts for the foods I actually enjoy? A registered dietitian is the most qualified person to translate the glycemic index research into practical daily eating that works for your specific health situation, your preferences, and your life. And ask them, can you help me understand the diabetes plate method and whether it would work for me? Now, let me close with something I said to Dorothy that I want to say to you. Managing blood sugar after 65 is genuinely more complex than the simple advice, eat less sugar, often suggests. Sugar is not the only thing that raises blood sugar. Refined carbohydrates, starchy vegetables in large portions, preparation methods, meal composition, timing of meals, activity after eating, all of these matter, and understanding them does not have to feel overwhelming. It starts with one conversation with your doctor, and ideally a dietitian who can help you make sense of the information in the context of your specific life. Dorothy is managing her diabetes better today, not because she gave up the foods she loved, but because she understood them better and made small, sustainable, evidence-informed adjustments. You can do the same. I am Dr. Daniel Chen. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If Dorothy's story resonated with you, please share this video with someone you care about who is managing their blood sugar and wondering why the numbers are not always what they expect. Leave your questions in the comments. I read every one, and I will see you in the next video. Take care of yourself.